Two tribunes, Flavius and Murellus, discover rankings of Roman citizens wandering the streets, neglecting their paintings. If you want to watch Julius Caesar's triumphal parade, Caesar has defeated the sons of the deceased Roman general Pompey, his arch-rival, in battle. The tribunes scold their residents for abandoning their duties and eliminate decorations from Caesar's statues. Caesar enters with his entourage, together with the navy and political figures Brutus, Cassius, and Antony. A soothsayer calls out to Caesar to beware the Ides of March, however Caesar ignores him and proceeds with his victory celebration. II.19, II.25. Cassius and Brutus, both longtime intimates of Caesar and each different, converse. Cassius tells Brutus that he has regard distant currently. Brutus replies that he has been at battle with himself. Cassius states that he desires Brutus could see himself as others see him, for then Brutus could recognize how commemorated and revered he is. Brutus says that he fears that the human beings want Caesar to become king, which would overturn the republic. Cassius sees eye to eye that Caesar is treated like a god, although he is merely a man, no higher than Brutus or Cassius. Cassius recollects incidents of Caesar's bodily weak spot and marvels that this fallible man has come to be so effective. He blames his and Brutus's loss of will for allowing Caesar's upward push to electricity. Really, the upward push of any such guy cannot be the paintings of destiny. Brutus considers Cassius's words as Caesar returns. Upon seeing Cassius, Caesar tells Antony that he deeply distrusts Cassius. Caesar departs, and every other flesh-presser, Casca, tells Brutus and Cassius that, throughout the celebration, Antony provided a crown to Caesar 3 instances and the people cheered, but Caesar refused it on every occasion. He reviews that Caesar then fell to the floor and had some type of seizure before the crowd. His demonstration of weakness, however, did now not adjust the plebeians' devotion to him. Brutus is going home to remember Cassius's words regarding Caesar's terrible qualifications to rule, whilst Cassius hatches a plot to draw Brutus into a conspiracy toward Caesar. That night, Rome is plagued with violent weather and an expansion of terrible omens and portents. Brutus unearths letters in his residence seemingly written by using Roman citizens concerned that Caesar has emerged as too powerful. The letters have in reality been forged and planted by way of Cassius, who knows that, if Brutus believes it smiles the people's will, he'll guide a plot to cast off Caesar from electricity. A devoted supporter of the Republic, Brutus fears the opportunity of a dictator-led empire, traumatic that the population could lose its voice. Cassius arrives at Brutus's home together with his conspirators, and Brutus, who has already been gained over with the aid of the letters, takes manipulate of the assembly. The men agree to lure Caesar from his house and kill him. Cassius desires to kill Antony too, for Antony will honestly try to avert their plans, but Brutus disagrees, believing that too many deaths will render their plot too bloody and dishonor them. Having agreed to spare Antony, the conspirators go away. Portia, Brutus's wife, observes that Brutus appears preoccupied. She pleads with him to open up to her, but he rebuffs her. Caesar prepares to go to the Senate. His spouse, Calpurnia, begs him now not to move, describing recent nightmares she has had in which a statue of Caesar streamed with blood and smiling men bathed their fingers in the blood. Caesar refuses to yield to worry and insists on going approximately his day-by-day business. Subsequently, Calpurnia convinces him to live domestic, if not out of warning, then as of up to her. But Decius, one of the conspirators, then arrives and convinces Caesar that Calpurnia has misinterpreted her dreams and the current omens. Caesar departs for the Senate within the employer of the conspirators. As Caesar proceeds through the streets towards the Senate, the soothsayer again tries, but fails to get his attention. The citizen Artemidorus fingers him a letter cautioning him about the conspirators, but Caesar refuses to study it, pronouncing that his closest private concerns are his closing precedents. On the Senate, the conspirators communicate to Caesar, bowing at his toes and encircling him. Separately, they stab him to death. Whilst Caesar sees his pricey buddy Brutus among his murderers, he gives up his battle and dies. The murderers shower their arms and swords in Caesar's blood, for that reason bringing Calpurnia's premonition to fruition. Antony, having been led away on a false pretext, returns and pledges allegiance to Brutus, however weeps over Caesar's frame. He shakes hands with the conspirators, consequently marking all of them as guilty at the same time as appearing to make a gesture of conciliation. Whilst Antony asks why they killed Caesar, Brutus replies that he's going to explain their purpose in a funeral oration. Antony asks to be allowed to talk over the body as nicely. Brutus offers his permission, although Cassius stays suspicious of Antony. The conspirators leave, and Antony, by myself now, swears that Caesar's death will be avenged. Brutus and Cassius visit the discussion board to speak to the public. Cassius exits to deal with some other part of the group. Brutus proclaims to the masses that even though he cherished Caesar, he loves Rome extra, and Caesar's ambition posed a risk to Roman liberty. The speech placates the group. Antony seems with Caesar's body, and Brutus departs, after turning the pulpit over to Antony. Again and again relating to Brutus as an honorable guy, Antony's speech turns into increasingly sarcastic, questioning the claims that Brutus made in his speech that Caesar acted handiest out of ambition. Antony factors out that Caesar delivered plenty wealth and glory to Rome, and 3 instances became down-gives of the crown. Antony then produces Caesar's will, however publicizes that he will now not examine it for it might upset the people inordinately. The gang although begs him to study the desire, so he descends from the pulpit to face subsequent to Caesar's frame. He describes Caesar's horrible dying and shows Caesar's wounded body to the gang. He then reads Caesar's will, which bequeaths an amount of cash to each citizen and orders that his private gardens be made public. The group becomes enraged that this beneficent guy lies useless, calling Brutus and Cassius traitors. The loads set off to power them from the city. In the meantime, Caesar's followed son and appointed successor, Octavius, arrives in Rome and bureaucracy a 3-man or woman coalition with Antony and Lepidus. They prepare to combat Cassius and Brutus, who have been driven into exile and are raising armies outdoor the city. On the conspirators' camp, Brutus and Cassius have a heated argument regarding matters of cash and honor, but they in the long run reconcile. Brutus famous that he's sick with grief, for in his absence Portia has killed herself. The two retain to prepare for conflict with Antony and Octavius. That night time, the ghost of Caesar seems to Brutus, announcing that Brutus will meet him again on the battlefield. Octavius and Antony march their navy in the direction of Brutus and Cassius. Antony tells Octavius wherein to assault, but Octavius says that he'll make his own orders. He is already asserting his authority as the heir of Caesar and the following ruler of Rome. The opposing generals meet on the battlefield and trade insults earlier than starting fight. Cassius witnesses his very own men fleeing and hears that Brutus's guys are not acting efficiently. Cassius sends one of his men, Pindarus, to peer how matters are progressing. From afar, Pindarus sees one and all their leaders, Cassius's satisfactory buddy, Titinius, being surrounded by cheering troops, and concludes that he has been captured. Cassius despairs and orders Pindarus to kill him along with his own sword. He dies proclaiming that Caesar is avenged. Titinius himself then arrives. The guys encircling him had been genuinely his comrades, cheering a victory he had earned. Titinius sees Cassius's corpse and, mourning the loss of life of his buddy, kills himself. Brutus learns of the deaths of Cassius and Titinius with a heavy coronary heart and prepares to take at the Romans again. When his military loses, doom seems approaching. Brutus asks one among his men to keep his sword, whilst he impales himself on it. Ultimately, Caesar can rest happy, he says as he dies. Octavius and Antony arrive. Antony speaks over Brutus's frame, calling him the noblest Roman of all. Even as the alternative conspirators acted out of envy and ambition, he observes, Brutus certainly believed that he acted for the gain of Rome. Octavius orders that Brutus be buried inside the maximum honorable way. The men then go away to rejoice their victory.